Welcome back to Watching God with your host, Watchful. So my last video went a little bit longer than I wanted to, the one on the Great Tribulation. So this is a teaser video to kind of go through some of the timeline of events to lead up to this new finding regarding the Great Tribulation. So I want to go through this really quickly. And if you want to know more, if you want to see the fullness of the video, then I'd recommend go watch that video. You may get everything you need from this one. So let's just go through this real quick. So it all starts with the anchor point that happened on September 23rd, 2017. That was when there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. So this was a very real sign that happened on November 23rd, 2017. This provides the anchor point that allows us to associate the scripture with a current event. What that tells us is that the book of Revelation is addressed to us, so we can read it as though it's talking to us. And it also tells us that constellations, the imagery of the constellations, can be used to understand the book of Revelations. Given that anchor point, like a bunch of puzzle pieces, I've been able to find more constellations and events and put them together in order to see the big picture. You have to understand that these are based on the heavenly signs and not my own personal dates. That's the foundation for this timeline. So let's go through this really quickly. So this Ezekiel 33:24 was fulfilled on April 29th, 2019, and I thank you. This is thanks to Nick Vanderland for finding this fulfillment. I put a link in this timeline for that video that he goes through and explains that. So that's one of the first fulfillments of prophecy that I've put on this timeline. This is a constantly evolving timeline. If you have, it looks like there should be more fulfillment in here. So if you have something that we can put in here to identify more prophecy fulfillment, by all means, please email me. You can find my email on the About page of my channel. All right, continuing on. So then in December 26, 2019, we have Revelation 6:1 and 2. That was, and I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder, one of the four beasts saying, "Come and see." And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. So this is the sign that appeared in the heavens, and this was the beginning of the COVID pandemic. And as you can see here, that has definitely gone forth conquering and to conquer. This pandemic has affected the entire world. I know people who live on islands and in boats in the middle of nowhere who have been affected by the pandemic. So in my mind, this has definitely gone forth conquering and to conquer, and the fact that it falls on a celestial event further reinforces that finding. But that's not the only thing we have here. We have another seal. So this one happened on December 14th, 2020. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, "Come and see." And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. So this happened the day that Joe Biden was declared the president of the United States. And I think we can all agree that he's definitely done a good job to take peace from the earth. Now, the sword that he was given was the vaccine delivered from the Trump administration with Operation Warp Speed. The reason why it's depicted as a snake here is because of the Greek god Asclepios, which is associated with toxicology and toxinology. If you want to know more details about that, go watch the longer video. So then here we have June 10th, 2021, and when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. The pair of balances should be the word yoke. A yoke is used to combine the strength of two oxen together. This happened to be the day that Joe Biden and Boris Johnson signed the New Atlantic Charter, which set out 8 different categories with which they would align their strength and forces. In my video, I talk about how that's setting up the beast system. Now, it's important to note that this is not the start of the famine or the increase in wheat. That actually started back here. When you read Revelation 6:6, it says, "And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see thou hurt not the oil and the wine." It says in the midst of the four beasts, meaning from the beginning of the four beasts all the way to the end of the four beasts, which is right here, which I don't have data going that far because it's in the future, but we have data going to here. So you can see that when this first seal was open, wheat was at about $181. Today, it's at about $427. So the price of wheat has definitely gone up. Likewise, barley started at $97. And today it's over. Well, I don't actually have the price going to today. The last price I was able to find still shows that it was increasing quite a lot, $224. So you can see measure of wheat for a penny, 3 measures of barley for a penny. So barley obviously being the cheaper of the two, but you can see that that holds true. So we have these 3 seals, and in that video I went through and I aligned it with the gospel records to show how this is the beginning of sorrows. So I've listed them in here. You've got Matthew 24, 3 through 20 is covered by these 3 seals. And then we've got specific verses associated with the seals being opened. What that revealed is when I noticed that this sign in the heavens is actually the great red dragon. Let's read that. Revelations 12, 3 and 4. It says, "And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born." This sign is going to happen on June 15th, 2022. It's a mirror opposite of the Revelation 12:1 sign. So the Revelation 12:1 sign had the sun and then 3 stars here, and then 3 planets, and then a star here. In my video, I show how it's the mirror opposite. There's also 3 stars in his tail. So when it says his tail drew a 3rd part of the stars of heaven, it's referring to the wandering stars, not the summation of stars in the entire universe. So, and I go into a lot of detail about this sign in my video on the Rapture, Elijah, and the falling away. I think I also touch on it in the Mark of the Beast Revealed. And then in my last video before this one, I also go into a little bit of detail about it. If you want to know more, go look at that. Also, look at this. So associating this with Matthew 24:29, immediately after the tribulation of those days, shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. I don't know if this happens on this day because it talks about his tail drew a 3rd part of the stars. One of the things I point out in my videos is that these signs seem to mark the beginning of events, not necessarily the culmination of events. So this could be saying that it's going to happen soon, or it could be saying that it happens on this day, because these certainly show what happened on these particular days. But this isn't a beast saying, "Come and see." These ones up here are beasts saying, "Come and see what's happening on this day." This is actually a different anchor point, similar to the Revelation 12:1 and 2 sign. So this could be marking the beginning of the events, which I speculate that this is the Great Tribulation. I know we all thought that the Great Tribulation happened after the rapture, but when you put this stuff on a timeline, it looks like, now that we have this anchor point of the Great Red Dragon, that this might actually be the start of the Great Tribulation. Now, it just so happens that there's a 3.5 month period of time between this sign and the Festival of Trumpets, which is when we see the sign of the Son of Man. That is in Matthew. That's handled in Matthew 24:30. "And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with power and great glory. So this is in Matthew. So if you can see what I've done here, I've gone through the gospel records and put them on a timeline and associated them with the celestial signs. What that seems to be indicating is that when the book of Daniel talks about time, times, and a half a time, that it doesn't actually refer to a 3.5 year period of time, but instead it's actually referring to 3.5 months. Now I've gone through and listed all of the verses that actually associate with that so that you can do your own research. Now this one is particularly interesting, Revelation 12:5. And this is immediately after the great red dragon. Let's read that. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. Notice the child has not been delivered at this point, but he's standing before the woman who is ready to be delivered with the goal or with the intent to devour her child. Now, the very next verse says this, and she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. So you can see here what I've done is I've put together a timeline in order to see what the scriptures are saying. I'm not privately interpreting. I'm just putting the puzzle pieces together to see what the picture actually says. And that was really the whole point of my previous video. If you want to know more of the details, you're welcome to go into this chart. I'll put a link in the description, or you can watch my previous video about the signs which reveal the Great Tribulation. And finally, in closing, I want to put on here that I thought that this was going to be the opening of seal number 4, and my reasoning was that the heavens were going to be rolled up like a scroll, and therefore it wasn't going to fit the pattern of the rest of these seals. However, I did want to put it on this timeline just for good measure so that I have complete data that the next event that does actually fit the pattern that were associated with these beasts happens in October 14th, 2023. Now, I don't know if that means that the rapture is not going to happen before that or what that is telling us, but it's definitely very interesting. And there's a lot more work to be done on this. By all means, this is not complete. This is only the very beginning. So it could be that the first fruits are raptured here, and then this is, maybe the Great Tribulation is from here to here, and then the wrath continues on. I don't know, but this was the start of the data set that I wanted to present to the world so that you can all see what I am seeing, and you can see how using the heavenly context we can have a new understanding. We can finally have an understanding of the book of Revelations and start to put these things together in the order in which they're happening. Hopefully that is enough of a teaser to get you excited to go watch the rest of my videos where I talk about the little bits and pieces that I've been working in the Word that have led to this understanding of the book of Revelation. God bless you. Take care. Keep looking up. Your redemption is close.